I want to talk to you if you found yourself being overly critical of your crochet projects, if you found yourself not following through with giving the item to the person you intended, if you've ever been complimented on something crocheted and you didn't fess up to making it yourself, and a few other things I'm going to get into in just a minute. If you feel like this could be you, please stick around so we can talk about how perfectionism might be stealing all the joy out of your crochet, and we don't want that. I love crochet and it has brought so much joy to my life, and I am so thankful to my friend that sat with me and helped teach me how to crochet. But as time has gone on, I have found myself being critical of certain things and either not starting or not following through on what I intended. I'm pretty sure I'm not the only one. I've scoured the internet and I've found there's a lot of reasons that we might have some perfectionist tendencies to us, and we're not going to get into all of that. All I can say is that could be something that you might want to talk to a licensed therapist about, or check out some videos by a licensed therapist and see what they have to say. I want to talk to you a little bit how this is manifested in my life. I've got a few different manifestations written down here in my notes. Some of these I have found myself falling into, and other ones I've just either heard people mention on videos or have seen people write about in some of the groups I'm in on Facebook. I think the first and most obvious one is just being overly critical of your work, not seeing the good in it, only seeing the flaws in it. And I mean, that's pretty common, and especially as you're learning and growing and making mistakes, which are bound to happen. That's all part of the process. But if when you look at a piece and that's the only thing you see, if you can't see all the wonderful aspects of the piece you made, that is definitely a sign that you could be suffering from perfectionist tendencies. And what I want to tell you about perfectionism, and especially as it relates to being overly critical, is that when you watch videos of people on YouTube and all their crochet projects, you have to understand that everybody is in a different starting place. Everybody started at a different time in their life. Everyone had different teachers. Some people are self-taught. Some people had different quality of products to work with. Some people just have access to different qualities than others. When you first start out and you are comparing yourself to someone like Crystal from Bag a Day, who has tons of experience and has so many patterns and so many videos. If you're new and you're comparing yourself to her, that's like you picking up a sports ball for the first time and then comparing yourself to a professional athlete. That is like you picking up a guitar for the first time, strumming it, and wondering why you're not good as someone in a band you love. It's the same thing. You're at such a different spot. I'm at a different spot. We all are. And you cannot compare yourself to people who have a totally different experience than you. It is not fair for yourself. So just keep that in perspective, that especially when you're watching YouTube and different projects and tutorials, that you could be comparing yourself to someone who gets to basically crochet full time, and you might only have a few years of experience and you just get to crochet when your schedule allows it. Please keep that in mind and ease off the criticism towards your projects. And if you have a stack of FOs and you intended to give them out as gifts, or you thought you would wear them but you find yourself just leaving them on the shelf, you might want to re-look at that stack of FOs. Sometimes we do know that a project just didn't measure up to the standards we want, especially if we are gifting it. But I think you should take a look at it and look at it with, so I know I just got cut off there in mid-sentence and I kind of don't even know where I was at. But this is the perfect example of why perfectionism can really get you. So halfway through that, my lighting just went out. It totally went dead and I can't figure out how to get it turned back on. So this video just got a lot darker, and I'll try to do my best to make it up in editing and to brighten it back up. but you know what? I'm not going to go back to the very beginning and redo it. I'm not going to go scrap the whole project and not put out a video. I'm just going to roll with it. So have you ever been somewhere and you're wearing something? Someone says, "Oh, that's a nice scarf." You just say, you panic and you're like, "Oh, thank you," and then walk off really quick. That might be a sign that you are afraid of being judged, which is part of perfectionism. So the thing we don't always think about is a compliment is also being judged, just the way a criticism is. And subconsciously, we do understand that, even if consciously we don't understand that. So it's that feeling like, oh, we just got judged. Oh, I'm panicking. Take a look and see if perfectionism is getting you again. So this next one, I know a ton of people deal with. I'm actually going to be coming out with a video in a week from now, so it will be January 26th. Once that video comes out, I will go ahead and link it up here, but if it's before January 26th, 2024, I won't have the video up. I'm going to be working on that with Mary over at Slow Crochet about using the good yarn. So if you have all your good yarn on a shelf and you're just looking at it, that could actually be another form of perfectionism. I understand we want to have the right project for a yarn. I get that. We don't want to feel like we wasted the yarn. If the yarn is making you that happy, just hanked up or balled up or whatever, think how happy you would be wearing that item. I think that's such an obvious way that perfectionism is stealing that future joy from you, that you could be wearing it and enjoying it in so many different ways, but instead you only get to see it when you come in your yarn room or go in your yarn closet and look at it and think about it. If you are holding on to it and afraid to use it because you don't have the right project, that's actually a little bit of perfectionism again. And I would encourage you to really push yourself to get started using that yarn. I just made up myself a basket and I'll show it to you. I've got my notes in here too. But I put this basket and it's my use first basket where I've taken yarns that I really like and wouldn't it make me more happy to have this in a project that I can wear around? Of course it would, instead of just having it buried. So I think it's a good idea to bring out those good yarns. We'll talk about that more in the collab I'm doing with Mary. Now, this is probably the biggest way that perfectionism gets me. It's not learning new techniques and new stitches. For me, perfectionism comes into be when I feel like I can't start something unless I have researched the living daylights out of something, unless I know every little single tidbit about something, then I can start. And I can tell you, this I feel like has set me behind schedule on so many different things in life. The reality is, I could be learning something and making something and enjoying it, and maybe it would work out really well for some of the yarns I have in my yarn stash, but I'm afraid to get going on it. This scarf was a perfect example. I knew I wanted to do a virus shawl, but it was complicated for me when I made it. And it was a new stitch. There was a lot of repeats in it. I want to say it might have been like a 7-row repeat. And I was using good yarn for it. So the pressure was on and I kept putting it off and kept putting it off. But you'll see me wear it a lot because I love it so much. And I'm really glad that I did push myself to learn a new pattern. So I was on a live this morning with my friend Sydney from Sweet Pea Sid's Inspiration. And we were just talking a little bit about it because she does Tunisian crochet amongst a ton of other things. And we joke all the time because she says it's not very hard and that I could definitely do it. And there's so many different things I could learn. And I even have a handful of Tunisian crochet hooks that I have got. And I just haven't ever started any projects. So for me, it's that whole, I've never done this before. I don't know all the things about the thing. So therefore, I won't be any good at it. Therefore, I should probably just save that in the closet and not pick it up. So I really need to do a follow-up to this video and see if I've made any progress and see if I have actually started learning it. The next way that perfectionism could be robbing you of some joy is if you find yourself excessively frogging. Yes, frogging is sometimes necessary. Totally, 100%. But sometimes it's just not. And we need to be able to look at a project and realistically decide if it needs to be frogged or not. I remember doing a granny stitch blanket and I had posted it online. I think it was on Instagram. I don't really know, but I had posted that I had made a mistake however many different rows back, and that in one of the areas I had only put like 1 or 2 stitches in the cluster instead of 3. Someone was like, "You're so brave for leaving that in." It's just the idea of, it's really not. It's not a big deal. Was it worth frogging back? Like, this was a granny to infinity, so, it gets bigger every row. Was it really worth going back 5 or 6 rows? Not really. I don't remember in the project now. I mean, I think I was making a blanket for a friend, so it was a gift, and of course I wanted it to be good, but did it really necessitate taking back all that work to add 1 little stitch when in reality it didn't change my stitch count? Like, it didn't make the row any smaller or any larger. Yes, technically it was a flaw, but it wasn't very visible. That was probably 2-3 hours of work that, I would have erased and then had to redo again. So, you really have to wager, like, how important is being perfect to that project? And I'm guessing a lot of times it isn't. I'm going to disagree with myself in just an instance here. So if you're selling your items online where, like, say you have an Etsy store and you sell a certain type of hat and you have a picture of that hat, but you just keep making the same hat over and over in the same color. You're not like physically taking a picture of that exact same identical hat every time. But when that customer is looking at your listing and they're seeing how great it looks, and it's, you've got it all laid out, your pictures are fantastic, you can tell the yarn looks nice, that's an instance where, yes, I do think the item does need to be perfect or as near perfect as possible. That's not something where I would then skip, because you're representing the product in a certain manner at a certain level, and that is what the customer is expecting when they click that purchase button. So that is the one time I will contradict myself, but for the most part, even if it is a gift, I'm still okay with that item not being perfect. If you are afraid to post pictures of your crochet in a Facebook group you are in, if you are afraid to start an Instagram page for your crochet, if you are afraid to start a YouTube for your crochet, based on the crochet itself, or thinking you don't have the right space, or your yarn isn't good enough, or you don't have the right background. I could go on and on about all the things. I say words wrong all the time. Literally every video, there's something I can't edit out where I have just messed up a word and it's stuck in there. Those are all things that, again, it could be perfectionism stopping you from the joy of doing these things. And I'm not saying that everyone should do these things. I'm not saying everyone wants to. But if you have that feeling that you want to share these items and your advice and your journey online, but that nagging little voice in your ear is telling you that you're not good enough for it, then that's perfectionism. I love crochet so much, and I love sharing this whole journey, and I love you guys, and I just want you to experience life and crochet to the fullest and just enjoy every bit of it. It is such a fulfilling activity for me, and I am working my hardest to get rid of that nagging little voice, and I want you to as well. We definitely deserve to be happy. And if crochet can help make us happy, we need to keep going and not let those little things bother us. If any of these things that I mentioned kind of hit a nerve and stung a little bit, please know it was not my intention at all to call anybody out, and it's definitely not criticism. Definitely not at all. I don't want it to feel that way. Please know I'm coming from a similar space, and it's something I'm just continually working on. It's unfortunate that so many of us do feel this way, but we do, and I am here for you, and I hope if anything this can help, especially like I said, if something there stung a little bit, please don't take it as criticism. Please know I am coming from the best place, and if it stung, that might be a little bit of like an indicator for you, like, oh my gosh, I am worried too much about this, or I am too critical about this, and it might be something I can work on letting go a little bit. You are the best. I appreciate you talking yarn with me. I'm going to have a video up here that you can watch next, and I appreciate you so much for talking yarn with me today. Bye.